So today we're going to do a little cleaning. Just a little bit. And we're going to be coming today from Mark chapter 5, 1 through 15. If you want to read the rest of the chapters, verse 20. And this is out of the Sefer I'll be reading from today. Everybody got it pulled up if they want to, but so Mark 5, this first page is going to be 1 through 6, but we're going to go through 15. And it reads, "And they came over unto the other side of the sea, into the country of the Gergashen. And when he was come out of the ship, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean ruach, who had his dwelling among the tombs. And no man could bind him, no, not with chains, because that he had been often bound with fetters, which is shackles, and chains. And the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and the fetters broken into pieces. Neither could any man tame him. And always, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying and cutting himself with stone. But when he saw Yahusha afar off, he ran and worshipped him, and cried with a loud voice and said, What have I to do with you, Yahusha, son of Elyon? I adjure you by Elohim that you torment me not. For he said unto him, Come out of this man, you unclean ruach. And he asked him, What is your name? And he answered, saying, My name is Legion, for we are many. And he besought him much that he would not send them away out of the country. Now there was there nigh unto the mountains a great herd of swine feeding. And all the devils besought him, saying, Send us into the swine, that we may enter into them. And forthwith Yahusha gave them leave. And the unclean ruach went out and entered into the swine, and the herd ran violently down a steep place into the sea. They were about 2,000, and were choked in the sea. And they that fed the swine fled and told it in the city and in the country. And they went out to see what it was that was done. And they come to Yahusha, and see him that was possessed with the devil, and had the legion sitting and clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid." All right. So Mark 5 starts off by giving us the name of this place called Gergashen. And when you look up Gergashen, it almost as if the Gergashen means reward at the end. It's as if the scriptures was telling us that this possessed man will have a reward at the end. That's where this was taking place. It also tells us that this man that was possessed with these unclean spirits lived among the tombs. When you look up tombs, it's a memorial, a monument, a burial place, it's grave. So this man with these unclean spirits lived basically in a cemetery. So it's almost if the scriptures was giving us a story within this story when we look at it, that this man with the unclean spirit at this moment, while he was going through his trials and tribulations, he was spiritually dead, living among the physically dead. But it tells us that it will be a reward at the end for this man. He just had to go through his trials and tribulations, like we all have to do, go through our trials and tribulations to get to our reward at the end. So I believe that was the story within this story. But what it tells us that this man, soon as Yahushua's foot, he stepped out of the boat and his foot hit the earth, that man ran up to him, started worshiping him. Why do we think that happened? And we can find the answer in Philippians 2, verse 10 and 11. It reads that in the name of Yahushua, every knee shall bow, of things in heaven and things in earth and things under the earth, and that every tongue should confess that Yahuwah is Yahushua HaMashiach, to the glory of Elohim the Father. So these demons that was possessing this man, they know their power, but as soon as Yahushua's foot hit that earth where they was at, they realized they had to go and bow down, that they had no power. To everybody else that was in Gogoshen, they seemed like they was tough. They was Billy B.A. But did you know it's a saying that everybody think they Billy B.A. till Billy B.A. show up. So when the king showed up, the holiness in him just radiated. The Father, holiness through Yahushua, radiated to these demons, knew that they no longer had the power that they thought they had. So they had to go and bow down to him and worship him and confess with their tongue, as Philippians 2 and 10 say, that every knee would bow and every tongue gonna have to confess who he is, which they did. We're gonna look at another verse. Now Mark 1:23 through 26, this was a completely different unclean spirit in this verse. And this says, and there was in their synagogue, a man with an unclean ruach. And he cried out, saying, let us alone. What have we to do with you, Yahushua, the Nestori? Are you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of Elohim. And Yahushua rebuked him, saying, hold your peace and come out of him. And when the unclean ruach had torn him or convulsed him, as some translation would say, and cried with a loud voice, he came out of him. So again, these unclean ruachs know who he is, and they have to bow. It's probably like, they probably like, stall me out, Debo. When Yahusha showed up, they probably like, stall me out, Debo. Leave me alone. Everywhere you go, you casting out demons. Let us be. But they have to bow down because they realized they didn't have no power. Every knee should bow. So if someone out there that's serving another God, you need to let them know that their God gonna have to bow to your God, the one and true Elohim Yahuwah, because every knee must bow. All right, so now we need to look at some of the affirmatives that these unclean ruachs can have on us if they were to ever enter into a person. Acts 8 verse 7. For unclean Rakoth, which is just many evil ruachs, Rakoth crying with a loud voice came out of many that were possessed with them, and many taken with palsies and that were lame were healed. So uncleanliness and unclean ruachs can cause physical infirmities to us. They can cause, this was a paralyzed person, they cause you to be paralyzed. So that not only is it harming you spiritually, it can harm you physically. Everybody still with me? Another one, Matthew 8, verse 2. And behold, there came a leopard and worshiped him, saying, Adonai, if you will, you can make me clean. Now, don't tell us that leprosy is caused by unclean spirit, but it does tell us leprosy is uncleanliness. And uncleanliness can invite in unclean spirits. Matthew 9, verse 32 and 33. As they went out, behold, they brought to him a dumb man possessed with the devil. And when the devil was cast out, the dumb spoke. And the multitudes marveled, saying, it was never so seen in Yashar'el. So now we're dealing with a man who can't speak, mute. So uncleanliness and unclean ruachs can cause you to be mute as well. Matthew 12 and 22. Then was brought unto him one possessed with the devil, blind and dumb. And he healed him, so much so that the blind and dumb both spoke and saw. So we see another infirmity. Blindness can be a uncleanliness, an unclean spirit possessed person. So if there's someone dealing with an affirmative, it could be because of uncleanliness in our house, or unclean ruach in our house. Could be either. So it's time that we got to cleanse our house. And we know that in dealing with leprosy, that uncleanliness is leprosy. It Numbers 12 and 10 with Miriam. Aaron and Miriam spoke out against Moses. And the Most High plagued Miriam with leprosy. And they said, yeah, that was a foolish sin. So we know that uncleanliness, she was unclean because they sinned. Sin is uncleanliness, which caused that plague to be brought on Miriam. I don't have it on my slide, but Mark 9 and 25. It speaks of death, a deaf person having an unclean spirit. There's another one of these infirmities that can be brought on by uncleanliness or unclean ruach, possessed person. So if someone dealing with those injuries, infirmities, they got to cleanse themselves. They got to repent. They got to come back to the Most High. That's the cleansing. Repenting, then filling yourself with the Most High to rid yourself of uncleanliness. Okay, so we're going to drop back to our scriptures now, where it starts in verse 9. After Yahusha had commanded these unclean spirits to come out, he asked them what their name was. And he said, Legion. My name is Legion, for we are many. And we besought much that he would not send us away from the country. Now there was, like I say, some pigs, some swine nearby, and these unclean ruachs asked to go into these swine, these pigs. Why is that?
Because they're unclean.
Because swine is unclean.
Exactly right. Exodus. Let's see where it's at here. It's that Leviticus 7 and 8. Leviticus 11, 7 and 8. It tells us that the swine is unclean for Yashar'el to eat. So these unclean spirits have to go into a unclean host. So if they was in these pigs, these swines, and somebody consumed them, they will also be consuming that unclean spirit. Thus the term, you are what you eat. So what I really want you to take from that is this. An unclean spirit cannot dwell in a clean house that is filled with the Ruach HaKodesh. So family, Yashar'el, it is time to clean your house. Otherwise, you invite these unclean spirits and this uncleanliness into you. If you in sin, it becomes a gateway for them to enter you. So it's important that you cleanse your house. So spirit of disobedience, if you're in the spirit of disobedience, you got to repent and let it go, because that makes you uncleanliness. Spirit of rebellion makes you unclean. You got to let it go. Otherwise, you invite these unclean spirits in. Spirit of anger, hate, got to let it go. Repent so you can cleanse yourself. Otherwise, these unclean spirits going to have a way in. And to prove that point, we go look at Mark 3:7. It tells us that no man can enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he will first bind the strong man, and then he will spoil his house. So if you're a strong man, somebody coming in your house, you're going to fight them. So the only way they could take your goods is bind you first, so you can't fight, make you weak, so you can't fight back. So an unclean spirit cannot dwell in a clean house that's filled with the Ruach HaKodesh, family. So it is time to clean your house. John is when Yahusha came to the temple and seen defiled things occur in John 2:14-17. It says, and found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves and the changers of money sitting. And when he had made a scourge, a small cord, which is basically a little weapon he made around his hand, he drove them out of the temple, and the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changers' money, and overthrew tables, and said unto them that sold doves, take these things hence, make not my father's house a house of merchandise. And his Timonium remembered that it is written, the zeal of your house has eaten me up. So they was defiling this holy place, this temple. And when they was defiling this temple, that invites unclean ruachs into this temple. Same thing I'm telling you, don't defile your temple, your house. So he was pissed. He threw all that stuff out. He threw them out, threw the animals out. Everything that defiled that temple, he got rid of. So everything that defiled your temple, you got to get rid of. You got to clean it. Got to clean your house. Second Chronicles 29:5. And he said unto them, hear me, ye Leviticum, Sanctify yourself and sanctify the house of Yahuwah Elohah of your father, and carry forth the filthiness out of this holy place. So they had to clean themselves before they even go into the temple. This was a physical place here, and they had to remove all filthiness. So what I'm continuing to tell you is, family, it's time to cleanse your house and remove the filthiness from you, your temple. But it's important that not only do we clean our house, we're going to see in this next slide, it's important to fill it with the Ruach HaKodesh. Matthew 12:43-45 tell us why it's important that we fill our house with the Ruach HaKodesh. Matthew 12:43-45, it reads, when the unclean Ruach is gone out of a man, he walks through dry places, seeking rest, and find none. Then he says, I will return to my house, from whence I came out. And when he is come, he finds it empty, swept, and garnished. Then goes he and takes with himself 7 other Rakath, more wicked than himself. And they enter in and dwell there. And the last state of the man is worse than the first. Even so shall it be also unto the wicked nations. So it's important that when you clean your house, you got to fill it. It says here he cleaned it, he prepared his house, but he left it empty. So he allowed those unclean ruachs to come back into his house, and he was worse off than what he was. So we got to fill it. So I want to give you something to think about. We're almost at the end. Imagine you all landlords. You all landlords here. You got some property. Squatters take over your property. You go through the process, you get those squatters removed. You get your house cleaned up. You get your house prepared. But you don't fill it with anything. You don't put nobody in it. What's the likelihood of them squatters coming back to your house? That's right. So we got to fill that house with the Ruach HaKodesh. We got to fill our house with righteousness. We got to fill our house with Yahushua HaMashiach, family. We got to fill our house with the Father, Yahuwah. Because once we do that, there's no room for nothing else. We got to fill our house. We can't leave it empty. So that's very important. Okay, now I got one last. This is the very end right here. I'm gonna ask for all participation in this here. It's gonna be a raising of hands. You going on vacation? You done booked it? You checking in? You get your key? You open your room, and it looks like this. You got rats, you got roaches, you got old food. By a show of hands, who's gonna stay in this place? Exactly. So nobody raised their hands. So now I want to ask you a question. If you tell me you won't stay in this place, why would your Yahuwah want to stay in your house if it's filthy? We got to clean our house, family. We got to get rid of lust. We got to get rid of the greed. We got to get rid of pride, envy. We got to get rid of all these things that makes us unclean. Because Yahuwah won't want to stay in our house if it's filthy. So So family, that's what I got for you. It's time to clean our house today and get rid of the unclean things that makes us filthy inside. We got to clean it, and we got to fill our house with the Ruach HaKodesh, with Yahuwah, with Yahusha, to prevent these unclean Ruachs from dwelling in us. We can't have that gateway so they can come in. That's what I have for you today. So I want to thank everyone for joining Yashar'el Truth today. I want to thank the Most High for working through me to serving Him and delivering this message to you today. I pray that this message was edifying, and I pray that you join us next time for our Shalom service. Shalom.